Playtime's over.
Hello, everybody, and today we're going to be talking about Child's Play 2. Now, let's jump right into it. Child's Play 2 takes place 2 years after the events of the first film, where we find that Andy Barclay has been in child care ever since the events of the first film unfolded, and his mother has been deemed unfit, and she is now locked away in a sanitarium. This is actually the saddest point in the movie for me, knowing that there is no Catherine Hicks. Catherine Hicks kind of got a bad rep early on, being that she started playing mother characters when she was relatively young. And at a time when it wasn't very common for the young lady to be playing a mother character like that. And she does a great job, which ultimately makes her missed in this a lot. We pick up when the toy company has decided to resurrect the good guy doll, and they bring back Chucky to do so, because what they're going to do is prove that the mass hysteria that happened there and the bad publicity they got was not their fault, and that they can move past it. So they end up bringing Chucky back, literally, as the doll comes back to life. It doesn't take long before Chucky proves them wrong, murdering one of their people and finding out where Andy Barclay is. And where is Andy Barclay? Well, he ends up in foster care with this really nice family called the Simpsons. Not those Simpsons. And they also have a teenage kid that they're also fostering named Kyle. This kind of punk girl, you know. And she quickly kind of bonds with Andy, trying to get him to be more adjusted and understand where the mom and the dad of this family are coming from, saying that they're nice people. Well, Chucky infiltrates the house, kills the other doll, Tommy, essentially destroys him. He's not alive, so he just basically breaks him. And he takes the place of this doll. He decides then to make himself known. And when he makes himself known, this sparks the beginning of the end. As you know what happens, the body count rises. There's not a massive body count in this movie. Part 3 blows it out of the water, but we'll talk about part 3 later. And even part 1 had more kills than this movie did. But this one is a little more horrifying at times than the first one, I think. There's a reason a lot of people like this movie better than they like the first one even. Me, I'm kind of in the middle. The first half of this movie moves a little bit slow for me. But then by the time that Kyle and Andy put things together and they decide that they have to destroy Chucky once and for all, well, what do you think happens then? Well, now we have a fight going on. Now we have something worth watching. It keeps you on the edge of your seat most of the time. So if you haven't seen the movie, I recommend watching it. It is a thrill. It is a thrill ride. And the final scenes actually do take place in a toy production thing. I mean, you have conveyor belts and everything building other Chuckies, other dolls. Now, interestingly enough, there is reason to believe that this may in fact where we ultimately get the cult of Chucky, where there are massive Chuckies, and he's been able to split his soul among dolls. I won't give too much on that away, but you have to watch the movie, and then if you watch the cult of Chucky, you can kind of start to put the pieces together as to why this may be later on potentially possible. Now, returning for the cast, of course, is Alex Vincent as Andy Barclay, Brad Dourif as Chucky, and joining the cast is Christine Elsey. Christine Elsey or Christine Elise, I'm not sure how to pronounce her name, as Kyle. You have Jenny Agutter, who I first actually saw, believe it or not, in a little film called The Coca-Cola Kid. And I had no idea that this was the girl from American Werewolf in London or Logan's Run or any of the other films that she would become known for at the time. I only knew this the girl from the Coca-Cola Kid playing the mom. And then you have Gerrit Graham. And Gerrit Graham's kind of an odd case because Gerrit Graham plays Bud the Chud. Yeah, that's a crazy thing to think of. When you think that Gerrit Graham actually played Bud the Chud. Now, it's also interesting to know that there was a book adaptation to this movie that dove a little bit into Chucky's past. Apparently, Chucky had a dwarf mother, and his father had abandoned them. Now Chucky apparently was abused by his mother, which led Chucky to get teased a lot in school and all this other stuff. So he ultimately commits matricide, which is murdering your mother. And why is it always gotta be matricide with these psychos, huh? Movies, come on. So, the book is not a true adaptation of the movie in that regard, as it dives a bit more into some of the past stuff. I have not personally read this book. I can't say how true to the rest of the script it is, although being that it's a book adaptation, it probably is pretty much true to it. You can kind of imagine it to be so. Now, that means they also get to add whatever they want. For example, in the Jason Voorhees, Jason Lives, Friday the 13th, Jason Lives novelization, at the end we're actually introduced to a very much alive Elias Voorhees. So, in that regard, you can't really take it to be canon because the movies themselves haven't told you it's canon. The new Child's Play series coming out, it may dive deeper into some of the events that happened, and we may in fact get to find out more about Chucky's past. That at least is the way it seems. Like we're gonna get to dive into maybe the past of Chucky himself. So seeing Charles Lee Ray's actual past, in a movie, in a series, will be, appealing. Now, this is deemed to be one of the favorite films. And as I said before, I'm a little bit on the fence about it because while I do enjoy the movie a lot, and while I do agree it is one of the better Child's Play movies, the very beginning of the movie doesn't appeal to me. The first 15 minutes are great. Then we deal with a little bit of Andy Barclay's new home life, and I sorely at this point miss Catherine Hicks to the point where her absence is very much on my mind when we're watching the movie. And for that reason, it's a little bit weird to me to say that it's the better Child's Play movie. But then you get towards the end, and it has one of the greatest endings possible. I mean, it's action-packed, it's a little scary, it's just great. And if you haven't seen it, you definitely need to check out Child's Play 2. Now, I'm not going to tell you a whole lot of things you didn't know about the movie because we already kind of discussed a couple things. But you can check out my first Child's Play review, and you can actually check out my Scream reviews and my Scream 5 theory. You know, everything I would like to see in Scream 5, you can check that out as well. Now, that being said, on this channel, we do talk about all things fandom in a positive way, and if you've come far, you know, the reason that you're sick of seeing these negative fandom channels, you know, where they trash and diss your beloved fandom and tell you how much it's turned to crap, then you probably have come to the right place, and we're very happy to have you here. So join us every week. Join us on Thursday for all the news that is news within the fandom. It's usually some little something that we do, some news stories, and, you know, whatever's happening in the fandom we'll talk about. That being said, that's where we're going to end today's video. But before we go, we want to make sure that you know to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that little notification bell so that you know when we do our next video. Leave a comment down below because YouTube really tends to like that, and we like hearing from you. Now, a portion of all profits from this channel, should we make a profit at this channel, will go to Tourette's research. So remember that. And the most important thing, after you get done hitting that like button, subscribe button, leaving a comment, at the end of the day, remember, fandom is family.